This is the RB60 spreader by Echo, and this is the 2600A+ spreader by EARTHWAY. Both are excellent high-end homeowner spreaders, but different in their own ways. Let's compare the two and see which one comes out on top. Hey guys and gals, welcome to Garage Gear. I'm JB. Just so we're clear here, I purchased both of these spreaders with my own money, so that way you know you're getting an honest review. Let's start out with where each of these spreaders are made. The Echo RB60 is made right here in the USA. The EARTHWAY 2600A+ is also made right here in the US, in Bristol, Indiana. Right out of the box, the Echo is pretty much ready to go. The only thing you'll have to assemble here is the handlebars. Simply fold them and lock them into place. The EARTHWAY, on the other hand, will require nearly a full assembly, and it'll take you approximately 30 to 60 minutes with the right tools. But going through that entire assembly process, start to finish, does give you a better idea of how this spreader properly functions. The ease of assembly point goes to Echo. Now, how much do each of these spreaders weigh? Well, the Echo is 26 pounds. The EARTHWAY is 15 pounds. For being the lighter of the two options, EARTHWAY takes the point. Now, which hopper holds more? Listen to me. Get to the hopper. Echo, 60 pounds of product fitting in it. That's where the 60 in RB60 comes from. The EARTHWAY, 40 pounds fitting in it. Point for Echo. Now, the hopper size. This hopper here on this Echo is insanely huge and can fit almost an entire bag of fertilizer inside. Baby, that's big! And instead of going up, they went wide with this. And because it's so wide, it can hinder your vision of your spread pattern a bit. So you can't exactly see the full swath coming out of this unit. Now, EARTHWAY over here chose to go with their bucket style. It's taller, it's narrower, and it allows you to see your spread pattern a lot better. Point there for EARTHWAY. Now, which spreader is going to give you the best flow out of the hopper? Shape matters here, and the shape of this bucket on this Echo is very gradual as you make your way down to the Agitator. And because this spreader has more of a gradual flow to the bottom, more product tends to linger there. And as the product starts to get low, you tend to have to bump and grind that spreader a bit more in order to get all the product out. The EARTHWAY, because of its bucket-like shape and the funnel at the bottom, everything gets out a lot better with minimal bumping. Another point for EARTHWAY. And to keep this video from bumping and grinding with the YouTube algorithm, would you mind hitting that like button? Thank you very much. Next up, the agitators. Feeling agitated? With you, always. But you also might be agitated with this Echo. Here's why. This plastic agitator is a common complaint among many. First off, it sits up just way too high. It sits about a ½ inch up, so the remaining product at the bottom of the bucket doesn't get any help from the plastic agitator. Again, forcing the user to bump and grind more and more. The agitator is also a little stubby with its wings that stick out. They miss about half of the width of each of the drop holes. Extending out an additional ½ inch on each end would help here. As we look at the EARTHWAY, well, EARTHWAY goes at this pretty simple, with a hitch pin. And you may be thinking, that's it? But sometimes the simplest designs do the best. It extends long enough and low enough to get all the product down through the holes. And with a ton of product sitting on top of it, it still doesn't even slow down. EARTHWAY, earning another point. Drop holes, Echo with 2, EARTHWAY with 3. This may not be the biggest contributing factor in a buying decision here, but in my experience, if you have a product that tends to clump up a lot, the extra holes does help keep the product moving out. EARTHWAY pulling away here with another point. Now let's talk about the mechanisms opening and closing these different gate holes. On the Echo, you have a cable and spring, which when pulled open up the gates at the bottom and release your product down to the impeller. The EARTHWAY here sticks with the lever and rod method. Pretty simple here, closed, open. And when you pull it back to open, the rod opens up the gates at the bottom, letting all your fertilizer out. If you were to accidentally leave it open, the gates would remain open and product would consistently be pouring out all over the ground. So you need to be constantly vigilant if you're open or closed at all times. Since the Echo automatically shuts itself when you release it, Echo gets the win here. Point for Echo. Now, which mechanism will hold up better over time? The Echo cable and spring or the EARTHWAY lever and rod? The EARTHWAY for sure. Although it may take a while, the cable and spring can stretch out over time, and this could ultimately affect your flow rate. Another point for EARTHWAY. Now let's talk about the handlebars. When I'm using the Echo, I have to literally hold it up like this in order to keep the legs on the back from dragging through the turf. These legs on the back are just a tad too long, and they create these ruts in the ground if you start to sag your arms down too low. Now, I'm 5'9", and I can comfortably come over here to this EARTHWAY, pick it up, and automatically the legs are already at a good height, so that way they're not dragging along the ground. Let's keep it this simple. If you're taller, you're probably gonna wanna go with the Echo. If you're shorter, you're probably gonna wanna go with the EARTHWAY. But if you're a taller person and you're really eyeing up this EARTHWAY, just know you're probably gonna be leaning forward a little bit. And if you're shorter, you're definitely gonna be picking up the Echo a little bit. Unless we can come up with a way to modify the handlebars. Who gets the point here? Well, I'm gonna give this one a tie because it comes down to the actual user who's using each of these units. Next up, side spread control. Now, if you're a bit of a lawn nut like me, this matters. Which spreader will help give you the best domination line between you and your neighbor. The Echo has a drop-down flap on the side that prevents fertilizer from getting into your garden beds or any other unwanted areas. Pretty simple, drop the flap down and away you go. And then when you're done using it, simply just fold it back up. The EARTHWAY has side spread control to do the same. Just note the side spread control on newer EARTHWAY models may look a little different here, but what makes the side spread control on this unit versus the Echo so different here is this. Notice how we have 3 holes here? If I normally push my spreader down my yard, all 3 holes would be open. Well, when I engage the side spread control, I open just one of the holes here and the other 2 still remain closed, effectively cutting the rate of fertilizer coming out along my edges. Allow me to explain this in just a little bit more detail. From here, let's say that this is your yard. Now let's say you're using the Echo and you turn on the edge guard so that way you're not blowing fertilizer into your sidewalks here. So it would look something like this. We're putting all that fertilizer down along our border. Well, now as you go and make your passes up and down your yard, vertically or horizontally, doesn't matter, you're dumping more fertilizer into an area that was already heavily hit, even with the edge guard on. Now, if we use something like the side spread control on the EARTHWAY, what ends up happening is we put down half the rate along our border, something like this. And when we go and throw our new passes down and up our yard, we're throwing fertilizer into an area that's been hit, but not with the full rate. This way you don't throw too much fertilizer into an area that's already been hit. If you're using a fertilizer that you can't afford to put too much down in a specific area, this could be important for you. If you're using something maybe more organic, well, then you don't really got to worry so much about throwing all that extra fertilizer along your border. But still, it's important to realize this because you're actually spending more money throwing more fertilizer into an area that you already previously hit. So the EARTHWAY not only deflects, but it cuts the rate in half. For that, EARTHWAY gets another point. That's some pretty good engineering, and if you ask me, that should almost count as 2 points. Now, which has the better spreader setting control? On the back of the Echo, we got a sliding dial. On the top of the handlebar of the EARTHWAY is an adjustment bolt that you twist and lock into place. According to some users in lawn care forums and lawn care groups on Facebook, this guy, if you hit a hard enough bump, it likes to wiggle itself out of place sometimes. This can get really annoying at times. Because the EARTHWAY holds its position better, EARTHWAY gets the win here. EARTHWAY is starting to show Echo the way it's gonna be around here. Jeez. But Echo has this really cool feature on the back of their spreaders, and that's a spreader setting crossover comparison chart. So if you're going from EARTHWAY to Echo, or Echo to Scott's, or Scott's to Echo, doesn't matter. It can help you readjust your settings to get the right amount of product out the correct way. This way you don't overthrow some product or underthrow some product. You get it right the first time. Pretty cool. Big point for Echo. Next up, tire size. Both units have pneumatic tires, which make the unit take bumps better and allow it to travel through taller turf easier. The Echo comes with 10-inch tall tires, and the EARTHWAY comes with 9-inch tall tires. Size matters here. Sure does. Echo, another point. Gearboxes and axles. The Echo has a 5/8-inch axle, as well as a larger gearbox for added durability. The EARTHWAY gearbox is a little bit smaller and comes with a 1/2-inch axle. Echo making a comeback. Another point. Now, actual swath size or spray pattern. Now, in my experience with the Echo seems to be pretty consistent with their stated numbers, hitting that 6 to 8 foot wide swath pattern. The EARTHWAY seems to hit a slightly smaller swath pattern at about 5 to 7 feet out. Echo just taking EARTHWAY for a run right now. Jeez. Another point. Warranties. What do you get? Well, with the Echo, you get a 5-year consumer, 90-day commercial warranty. With the EARTHWAY, you get a 1-year limited warranty. Point for Echo on the longer warranty. Side note, this EARTHWAY spreader is about 8 years old. Hey, she may be old, but she puts out. I have used this unit for many applications across my yard. And only 2 problems have come up during that entire 8-year span of ownership. Both happened right around the 5-year mark for me. First off, this little plastic wing nut here broke. Luckily, I had another one, and if I were to replace it, I would just put on a brand new metal one. The newer models actually have a metal wing nut installed already. Must have seen a common problem there. And for the second problem, because I use this unit so much, the hole at the bottom of the bucket started to wear and the pin started to really wobble from side to side. The agitator itself is made of metal and the bucket at the bottom is made of plastic, so over time it just started to really just wear itself out. So how did I fix this? Well, I decided to use a step washer that had basically 2 levels. One level sat inside the plastic hole and the other sits right on top, and I have almost no wobble anymore. The agitator works perfectly again. life is good. Now, overall ease of use. Even with all my years of use and experience with the Earthway spreader, I still gave the Echo a fair shot. The Echo saw plenty of use recently, and while I have to come back to the garage more frequently to fill up the product on the Earthway, it seems to be a bit more mechanically sound. Its simplistic and rugged designs just work, effectively getting all the product out onto the lawn in a way that's easy to see and adjust on the fly. Earthway grabs the final point in this close matchup. That was actually really close. And when it comes down to it, both of these spreaders are excellent choices. You'll just have to decide which spreader is best for you and your lawn. If you're interested in learning even more details about the Echo RB60 spreader, check out the link below. For more cool garage gear content, click or tap the screen right here. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the garage.